They call Atitlan the most beautiful lake on earth, and as you can see behind me, they're probably not all that far off. It is absolutely one of the most stunning places I have ever been. And it's not just the beauty either, it's the history, it's the culture. This water has been sacred to the Maya for thousands of years, and today it is probably the most recognizable site in the whole country. So if you come here though, like those many millions of tourists before you, I'm going to recommend that you don't swim. Because for all its beauty, Atitlan is teeming with human shit. Nestled deep in the Sierra Madre Mountains, 1,500 meters above Guatemala, is one of the most beautiful lakes on earth. They call it Atitlan. It's the deepest lake in Central America, a volcanic caldera so important that you can tell it's special from space. It's a magnet for our species. It always has been. And it isn't just the beauty either. Of course that plays a part, but the entire landscape seems to flow here, which isn't even much of an exaggeration. Atitlan is a hydrological endpoint, something scientists would call endorheic, which I've undoubtedly pronounced wrong. I'm not a scientist, but to put it more simply, it means that rivers lead here and none of them lead away. It's the end of the line. In a more practical sense, it means nearly endless fresh water for all time, a Garden of Eden for all eternity. Because of that, these shores have always attracted human settlement. Fish, food, something to drink. When it comes to survival, there's nothing quite like a big old lake. But the more reliable it was, the more people came to rely on it. And the more they came to rely on it, the more they needed to control it, to make sure it never changed, to sustain that stable, calm life it had always provided them. And in turn, cultures weren't just adapted to meet that reality, they were built around it, to mythologize it. For over 10,000 years, in memories long forgotten in all but the sediment, people instilled this lake with their gods, beings you could sacrifice to guarantee that control that every farmer dreams of. And to this day, you can still witness one of Earth's oldest living gods virtually every evening as it sweeps across the surface of Atitlan. Its name is Xochimilco, a strong wind that churns up the water into white-capped waves, a being as old as time itself. Wind you can rely on. But it isn't alone here. Up in the hills of Santiago, in a swanky apartment, resides one of Guatemala's newest gods, a 500-year-old cult effigy known as Relajmam. He says he can help your kid sneak into America, maybe even make your corn grow. He probably won't, though, because he tends to lie, but that doesn't stop people from coming to see him, because after all, this is Atitlan. The point is, it's easy to imagine that religion was always meant to engulf this lake. It's where the landscape flows. It's only natural that we'd flow here too. But for all the gods that inhabit this caldera, it doesn't seem like they're listening anymore, because while this lake might look important from the heavens, on the ground it seems that ancient reverence has lost a bit of its devotion. Well, actually, that's kind of a lie now that I say it out loud. I don't really think that humans have changed all that much throughout history. It's just the scale. For better or worse, we live in a world of excess. And the problem with excess is that it makes waste. Even early societies had trash. In fact, a lot of archaeology is rifling through their old dumps. It's just that our era is different. What happens when you turn God back into a resource? It's the monkey's paw of the great ape. We finally have all the control over the environment that we ever wanted, but required sacrificing the very environment we set out to control. Is it really having your cake and eating it too if you threw away the last third of the cake? We've terraformed our world into a trough so wide 8 billion can feed, and as one of those feeding, it's not exactly easy to complain about that. Yeah, we can all see what it costs to make the slop. Or maybe we can't. Maybe that's the problem. Hell, maybe we never could. The curse of Atitlan is that the very thing that makes it great is what's killing it. It's an endpoint. It's endorheic. Everything done here stays here, an 80-year cycle all wrapping back into itself. And every little tendril upstream, every single person who ever came here, every pilgrim, farmer, fisherman, hell, even me here documenting it, we all create waste. And it isn't like we'll ever stop coming. This is where the landscape flows. Since the calming of the genocide, tourism has blossomed in Guatemala, and Atitlan is the #1 place people are coming to visit. They're the new resource, the new god to rely on, and like a proverbial gold rush, towns dotting this lake have blown well past whatever minuscule sewage systems they once relied on, if they ever had anything at all. And while many of the eco-resorts now offer the absolution of their own personal filtration systems, the trust fund utopianism falls apart a little bit when you realize that everyone working there goes home to something entirely less hygienic. As of today, up to 80% of everything coming out of a body goes back into the lake untreated. Everything. And then it's sucked right back up as drinking water. Walk the shore and you can see the pipes. And the problem gets even worse when you look upstream. All the towns here rely on their rivers like garbage collectors, like Mother Nature's sewage system. It doesn't matter to them if Atitlan chokes, they're upstream. It's not like they have the money to clean it anyway. And what's more, they've been doing this since forever. The frog doesn't hop out of the water if it boils over a few thousand years. Yet, even with all the damage we assholes are causing, the true problem killing Atitlan are the farmers. The mangoes in our smoothies, the corn in our cars. People have been growing crops in these hills for thousands of years, but not like they do now. The fertilizer and insecticide that provide our excess are all draining back into Atitlan as chemical runoff. They're currently killing what little life this lake has left. Life already devastated by another short-sighted decision, the 1958 introduction of an invasive species, the North American bass. They thought tourists might want to go fishing for something they already knew, I suppose. And in turn, it ate every single animal and plant that helped filter this water. Its appetite was so voracious, it even drove a species of bird extinct. But judge the people here all you want. It isn't like you can just turn your back on progress. It's Pandora's paradox. Everyone wants the excess, but it's like widening a highway. Nothing ever stops the traffic. All it ever does is invite more cars. As of the making of this video, Atitlan has a population of nearly 400,000. It's already dozens of times larger than it ever was, and it's growing all the time. Yet 3 out of every 4 of those still live in poverty, 150,000 in extreme poverty. People are literally dying for a chance at excess. You can't just turn your back on progress, and progress has always meant waste. The only thing that's ever changed is the scale. We aren't destroying our world out of ignorance. It isn't maliciousness, at least not at its core, although I suppose I can't speak for you. But the people living by this lake want better. They know the problems they face as much as anyone. They just desperately need to make money. That's the new god. That's what provides stability today. And even the wealthiest countries rarely spend the money it takes to do this properly. Even with all the excess in the world, the solution of virtually every single wealthy country, which is, I should note, also the recommendation of most experts who've studied Atitlan, is simply to ship the problem somewhere else. It's too complicated to manage it here, so just deal with it over there, somewhere nobody lives, or poorer probably, less important to the ecosystem, at least the one our economies rely on. Presumably, if history teaches us anything, they're going to choose the ocean. After all, that's where the landscape flows. It's the end point. But that isn't to say that these problems are impossible. Larger lakes have been saved from equally monumental threats. Even in the modern era, Biwa in Japan, Erie in America, toxification doesn't have to be a death sentence. The pollution that rings Atitlan can be seen like a silver lining. Because if nothing else, it's a wake-up call. It can't be out of mind if it's never out of sight. Ever since that first algae bloom in 2009, people here are taking the problems far more seriously than they ever have. Not just for their own health and wellness, but because they see the effect on the tourists, the money. The government is of course failing to live up to its promises. Virtually nothing has been built that the ecologists recommended over a decade ago, but the community is waking up to the reality of what needs to be done. They're the ones who are going to solve this. They're the ones replanting biofiltration. They're installing personal sewage systems. They've even proposed an environmental tourist tax. It might not be enough yet, but it's a step in the right direction, and that's one more step than we've taken so far. Destruction is by no means our fate. We produce far more excess than we do waste. Our population size might make it seem like we've never been worse to our planet, but that's only partially true, because we've always been like this. We were a wasteful species from the start. It's just that the scale has changed. But the reverse is also true, that we have never been more capable of cleaning up after ourselves, never more aware of what our gods truly are. Which leads me to here. standing on a toxic shoreline, watching a man in a scuba suit collect algae that just won't stop blooming. He isn't paid, he just knows it has to be done. So this is how he spends his weekends now. If there's a solution here, I can't help but think that he's it. No magic will ever come and save our planet. Politicians aren't going to clean this lake, even stuffed full of tourist dollars. The real solution will always come down to actions like his. Atitlan is special. You can see it from space. But it also isn't, because this isn't a story about Guatemala. That's just where it's set. We've all got our Atitlans. And it's getting to the point where we can't keep them out of sight anymore. The hard reality is that unless we get on our scuba suits and actually devote some time to that algae, we are going to spend the rest of our lives forced to live in a toilet that we were too lazy to flush. This is rare earth. And I really hope they clean this up. It's gonna get a little bit more excited with it. You ready?